Jujutsu Kaisen is a story that wants to say a lot. It asks a lot of questions, and even though it answers nearly none of them, the fact it poses them when it's in the genre it's in is something people find amusing. And this attitude ramps up during and after Shibuya. The fabled four-letter word is so captivating for people that they forget, or may want you to forget, how sloppy the first few arcs of Jujutsu Kaisen were. What am I trying to say? Well, let me answer that question with a question. Does anyone remember Junpei? Again, the story gets so self-absorbed and people are so often tricked by that, everyone forgets the abysmal character that Junpei was. Junpei is an emo white boy who wants to shoot up his school. Nothing less, and unfortunately nothing more. His whole character is that he hates the world and with his newfound abilities, wants to justify vengeance. The worst thing about Junpei isn't his annoying personality, cliche motivations, or cookie-cutter attitude. See, admittedly, the anime made this a lot worse with its symbolism and openings, but we were led to believe that maybe in another life, Junpei would have been one of us. You know, us, the collective of quote-unquote good-natured sorcerers that use their pain and powers to help others, and learn right from wrong along the way. It's because of this possible future that Yuji crashes out as that future gets taken away by Junpei's transconfiguration. Someone who's valued life to such an extreme measure is forced to utter the words, "I'm gonna kill you," to another being. The thing is, Yuji and Junpei knew each other for a day, maybe a day and a half. It is utterly ridiculous to expect me to care about the tragedy of a character and how that tragedy literally reshapes the protagonist's main motivations for the rest of the story if the relationship that was born from that tragedy was so short-lived and underdeveloped. It is literally just that RDC video.
You must live out my dreams through you. I literally just met you like 5 minutes ago. I don't know no.
See, if I had to summarize Jujutsu Kaisen's greatest flaw, it would be the absence of character. There are so few individuals in JJK that feel developed, and that's because the story skips over what would make them developed, just so that those characters can reach a conclusion that gets them ready for their next battle. There were early signs of that in Jujutsu Kaisen's first season, even in the world building. The entire initial premise of the show, Yuji's doomsday clock as he collects Sukuna's fingers, ushered in and pushed by the higher-ups, doesn't land as much for me because who the hell are these people? What is their relationship to the government? Are they the government? Do they supersede them? What's their relationship to, say, the police or other civil services? Do those exist? Their conservative outlook has such claustrophobic ramifications on our characters, but we never really get acquainted with the logistics, unlike, say, Fire Force, that are so obsessed with the logistics that they'll make you sit through really boring arcs just to explain it. Even Naruto did that. Does anyone remember the Chunin exams? Don't get me wrong, it's not like the entire first season of JJK is like this. Goodwill has issues, but only because later parts of the story don't take advantage of the arc setup. And even though it's short, I really liked Origins of Obedience. Spoiler alert, but it's the only character work you're gonna get for Megumi and Sumiki, and probably the last time you'll see how cool Nobara is, but you knew that part already, didn't you? But that first core, I'm new to the manga scene, granted, I've always been honest about that, but it's probably the worst introduction to a shonen I've seen in a while, and that's saying a lot. I mean, Fearsome Womb, the arc that begins around the 4th episode, literally begins with Yuji dying. Yeah, the protagonist of the story is ushered out of the story immediately, and as we'll get to later, ushered out of it before he could even properly be introduced to the audience. Of course, this wasn't permanent as it was more so for plot, but what an insane move for a character we haven't even been acquainted with yet. Maybe Gege really didn't believe his manga would be around for that long. Huh. I didn't know they were keeping Sukuna in a cargo box.
In a cargo box?
I want to ask something real quick. Take away the juggernaut that the series later became. Take away everything people think JJK has to offer. Take away JJK's celebrity status that would convince people to keep watching to see what the hype was about. Does Jujutsu Kaisen pass the sacred anime first 3 episodes rule? I've been waiting so long to talk about this.
In a cargo box?
We start on our protagonist, future GOAT and blissful ray of sunshine Yuji Itadori. He's calling into the hospital to check on a relative. The anime actually adds a lot of scenes revolving around Yuji's hospital visits. We're shown him calling the hospital, buying the flowers for the nurses, and more attention is put into how weird he feels around the death of a loved one. We're seeing the early glimpses of someone being unable to process death as a concept. The kicker though is, I mentioned the anime added scenes. That's because in the manga, it's very haphazard. A lot of manga treat their first chapters as a ground zero of sorts. First chapters are usually a glimpse at life for the main character before their quote-unquote hero's journey begins. But Yuji's is different. Sure, the chapters end with him officially indoctrinating himself into the world of Jujutsu sorcery, but the first chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen does little to establish the life he's leaving behind. For instance, he's in a club for the paranormal. Oh, well, maybe he has an interest in spirits in the world unseen, which could acclimate him to sorcery and curses a lot easier, like in Okarun or Momo. Well, no, he's only really in the club because he needs something to do to keep his mind off things. Well, certain athletic clubs seem to be something that would be good for him, given his infamous innate superhuman feats. He doesn't really want to get involved in that stuff. Doesn't really see it as a big deal. Well, okay, maybe we can get a little warmed up to what his family life is like. Nope, his parents are gone, and his uncle is about to share the same fate. Well, what the fuck? What am I supposed to glean from this guy? All I know so far is that his name is Yuji, he seems chill, and his uncle is currently Uncle Benning. Well, maybe his uncle aptly giving him his own version of the great power, great responsibility speech will guide him throughout the entire story. Well, it does, I suppose, but it's not like Yuji needed to learn to be of service to other people. He's not innately selfish like other protagonists who need to learn to be givers. In fact, he's so willing to jump in front of a bullet for others, especially later on in the story, even pre-Shibuya. I question where that nurturing self-sacrificial nature even came from. What was his call to action? Well, to put it simply, he doesn't want to see people die. Join the f***ing club, dude! See, this is what I'm getting at. Yuji Itadori is, well, he's too normal, at least at the start. He has seemingly no ambitions, he doesn't have a clear thing he needs to learn from, the guy doesn't even have any interests or likes so far. Nothing that makes him stand out. Besides, again, his likable personality. Like, he doesn't want to see people die? That's not special! Hell, I'm pretty sure a cereal mascot would be hopelessly pacifistic, let alone a shonen protagonist, and like, maybe that's the point? I mean, Yuji does make himself out to be a cog, someone who isn't special, someone who only exists to perpetuate a system that maybe one day will learn to keep others safe longer than he's alive. He as a person doesn't matter, but more so what he does matters. That's fine. His character arc is that he has to learn that he isn't a character. I would just hope that wouldn't mean he literally has no character. Full disclosure, I like Yuji, but what can you tell me about him specifically, especially early on in the story? A character trait, a desire, hell, even interests that set him apart. Something that informs what makes him tick and isn't just a one-off gag like his taste in women, adoration for knockoff Godzilla movies, or accidental gambling habits. This doesn't have to be complicated. Asta likes working out. Deku is a comic book superhero nerd. Denji wants to stick it in someone. What is something about Yuji that makes him more than just a lovable and chill guy that gets really good at punching things at the start of the story? You know, before all the torture porn and human life psychology kicks in. The only thing we have to go off of is this vague notion of bringing proper deaths to others and himself. And, you know, spoiler-free review and all of that, but if you're expecting that to, like, go anywhere, hell, if you're expecting it to be explained or make sense, to quote the real Tumblr daddy of the internet, you're gonna have a bad time!
In a cargo box?
I mentioned this before, but this could have easily been fixed if Yuji just picked something to be fascinated by. His family is gone, so maybe he's had to force himself to retrospect over death as a concept. He's in a club for the paranormal. Maybe he's like one of those Stranger Things kids. Maybe he does like sports, but he gets this weird feeling he shouldn't indulge because for some reason he's stronger than the rest. Maybe his lust for celebrities isn't just a one-off statement to stop from getting punched in the face. I don't know! Pick something! And again, I like Yuji, but I want to stress that as great as Yuji is, if the first episode or chapter can't even properly establish him beyond the surface level protagonist checkmarks, and he's the main character, may God have mercy on the rest of the cast!
If you see somebody say something good about this movie, they have been paid, they are a bot, or they don't mean well for you.
So yeah, after his uncle's passing and his supposed off-screen tears, seriously, you're not even gonna show his emotions? Yuji is approached by Megami. You see, Yuji's idiot friends have attracted the cursed spirit by stealing Sukuna's fingers, so they give chase, stop the curse, but not without a little help from the finger itself. It awakens within Yuji and, well, enter Roman Sukuna. And the chapter/episode kinda just ends there. Kind of random and anticlimactic if you ask me. While the demon hybrid sort of story is a decent hook, it's sort of a nonchalant ending, not really giving itself any gravitas. God, everything about this beginning is so relaxed and mundane. What is this, a regular Tuesday for everyone? Even the anime's jump forward to Yuji being captured has such a lackadaisical vibe, not helped by Gojo's, lackadaisical vibe. The next couple episodes aren't anything too crazy either. The second episode is Yuji convincing the principal to let him join the school, with his motivations that I've already explained don't really make any sense. And the next episode is the Nobara episode. I'm sure her 3 AI certified fans are happy with that. I was thinking, and I guess I can't really treat this as an intro to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, because there already was a Jujutsu Kaisen introduction before this. Does anyone remember Volume 0? Its tone, story, and writing style is so separate from JJK that a lot of people either forget to include it in conversations or even that it came first. This is actually a really good starting point for a story like Jujutsu Kaisen. Besides the movie not immediately revolving the story around haphazard dynamics that were established yesterday, a lot of that has to do with the fact that while he is a parody of shonen protagonists, Yuta actually has palpable desires and the drive to actually be active in the story that goes beyond his tidings as a good person. Now, I would never say, especially in JJK's totality, that Yuta is somehow a better and more interesting character than Yuji and should have been the protagonist. I promise I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that as introductions go, he acts as a way more engaging character to invite us into this new world. Jujutsu Kaisen had a really rocky beginning in my opinion, wanting to get us acquainted with a new world while giving us characters that don't really entice us to become invested. If it weren't for his likability, Yuji Itadori would be a total bore and blank slate, seemingly uninterested and unfazed by the bizarre events around him, and willing to throw away a past life that we just never saw. The only thing anchoring him to anything interesting is his complex relationship to human life. The story promises to delve more into his thoughts and bouts of death, but will it? It doesn't. But that remains to be seen by anime only soon enough. And Junpei's arc versus Mahito certainly exists, an arc centered around a character who's bland and formulaic, and a dynamic the story spends no time on developing before ripping it away from the main character. Isn't really JJK at its best. There are a few silver linings. Mahito's personality is infectious, and through him, Jujutsu Kaisen will discuss the topic of how to truly live a life, and the worth of a life. And Nanami, as we'll discuss later, if this series doesn't get cancelled, is in a long line of characters who are trapped and pressed by the Jujutsu world. Great stuff. But with such a lousy introduction to the world of JJK, how did so many people get so invested into it? Well, little things like the humor, the characters having good personalities, the general vibe and maturity of the series. And I mean, well, just look at it. Especially at the time it was airing, Jujutsu Kaisen just looks so much better than everything else. The adaptation was just good. It wasn't perfect, a lot of the shots felt a little stiff, and the character designs were almost too perfect and solid to animate fluidly. But for the most part, it was a great adaptation that added a lot and gave sauce to a manga that, again aesthetic-wise, already had a lot of it. But don't be fooled by the pretty colors. As great of a job Mappa did, a lot of the flaws found in Jujutsu Kaisen's first season will haunt the rest of the series.